Dr. Welner, they say that Adam Lanza may have been mentally ill. He may have had a personality disorder. There were reports that he was autistic. In this whole thing, where does mental illness have a role?
Well, this is based on my experience in working in cases where people either killed themselves or having had the opportunity to sit and not only study cases, but to interview people who carried out mass shootings. There are three symptoms that are the most important issue to concern oneself with. One is suspicious and resentment. Two is hopelessness. And three is identification with destruction, just a fascination with destruction. Now, none of that is part of autism.
No.
So you ask the question of, what is one thing? Well, here is what may prove to be an issue. That someone who is diagnosed with a developmental disability may have great difficulty communicating. So if he was in a place where he was becoming ill and had something in which these symptoms were part of his illness, it might have been harder to detect because he was peculiar or he related differently, and it would not have been easy to witness a change. Now again, we know very little, but autism is not the issue, but autism may have been the cloak that may have made it difficult for even someone who cared and loved him so much to keep this from being discovered.
What do you think of your mother?
This is a woman who was shot 5 times in the face. I have nothing terrible to say to her. You know, we may find that she tried to be a hero to stop this, and that basically she was standing in front of him and said, "You have to go through me," and he did. And so I think we need to respect the dead. That's my position on it.
We spoke with Chris about this earlier too. Ultimately, why does this continue to happen? And then how do we prevent it? And how do we stop this cycle?
Here's a key thing to learn. Again, this is a phenomenon that's exploded over the past 20 years or so. So why? Because guns and mental health have been around for much longer. Then we're much more sophisticated about mental health. 2 key ingredients. One is a 24-hour competitive news cycle that can take people from being completely anonymous in a celebrity-driven culture, which really distinguishes America, and make them larger than life. And so that's one ingredient. The other is we've become better at making escapism perfect. And so now we have an industry, video game violence, that essentially feeds addiction in a way that the tobacco companies built a better nicotine and a better cigarette that it becomes a drug. So for someone who's already isolated, who's already developmentally disabled, who already has difficulty connecting, the worst thing you can do, and this is some advice to parents, which we'll touch on in a minute, is to allow that isolation to be perpetuated, especially in a medium that gives points to killing people. Think about it. This was a crime that's more than a mass shooting. He killed these people like an arcade game. Who fills people up with 11 bullets and 5 bullets? Medical examiners, I will tell you this as a forensic scientist, we don't see that. That is the end point of dehumanization. And that is the end point of video game violence. It's just like guns. Some people can handle it, some people can't. Your children do not benefit at all constructively from video game violence. Stop allowing your kids access, just as you wouldn't give them access to cocaine. I want to end, or at least make an optimistic note. I can tell you unreservedly, this is based on experience, I can't say this about all homicide. Mass homicide is a social phenomenon. It will get worse, and it can be totally eliminated, and each of us can make a difference. Example. Okay, parents. Teach your children at the beginning to take personal responsibility. If they don't start blaming others, they'll never get there. Teach your children resilience when they're hopeless. Teach them that some people get up. Teach them that some people will go forward. Keep them away from video game violence.
Also keep it out of the house, because sometimes it's the parents who are playing these games and they play with their kids. Just want to say.
100%. Don't pay for violence. Why should you be paying money for your children to see a violent movie? If you take the economy out of the violence industry, you will extinguish it.
Right.
You will extinguish it. They're simply feeding the beast. Second, what can neighbors do? What can neighbors do? Give an example of supporting strangers. Model empathy. Because kids may not get it in their own home. If you teach people how to have regard for someone who's struggling, again, keep in mind these are individuals who are crawling into the cracks. Next, what can teachers do? Apart from teaching your kids resilience, teach them to value creativity, Teach them to value volunteerism as how you gain structure. Because if people are creating and they're valuing creativity, they are not destroying.
Dr. Welner, thank you so much for those tips. We want to thank Dr. Micheal Welner and Chris Cuomo. We'll be right back.